lead toxicity: headaches, fatigue, brain and nervous system damage, okay? Seizures, increase in blood pressure, anemia, kidney issues, sleep issues, and reproductive issues, okay? Sound familiar? Okay, low libido, all of these type of things. This comes from just lead poisoning, okay? This is what we saw in Flint, Michigan, just from the lead poisoning, okay? So the Consumer Report found that 9 out of 10 products had lead in them, okay? By the way, before I move on to the next thing, there was lead in the paint back in the, prior to the 80s. In the 70s, they could use lead in paint, okay? They outlawed that, where you can't use lead in paint, but it's in your hair, okay? And the lead that was in the paint of old homes that got painted over 10 times by now, it's still causing issues for a lot of people when you live in those old homes that had lead paint. So just imagine what it does when you attach it to your scalp and it's on your neck. And this is a primary area of blood flow, okay? So just keep all of that in mind. And your lymphatic system is here as well too. Anything you put on your skin goes in. So that's the first thing that they found. The second thing that they found was that 10 out of 10 of the products contain what are called VOCs. VOCs are volatile organic compounds, okay? Now, don't let the name organic fool you, okay? Volatile organic compounds. These include compounds like acetone, okay? That you quite often find in nail shops. And if you go and look at the studies on people who work in nail shops, which has massive amounts of acetone, look at the cancer rates of people who work in those nail shops. I mean, as soon as you walk into the nail shop, all you can smell is the acetone. So volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, are compounds like acetone. They found those VOCs in 100% of all of the 10 products that they tested. Okay, these include things like polypropylene. They include things like PET, which is polyethylene terephthalate. Also include polyvinyl chloride as well too. And all of these are considered potentially cancerous, okay? And in addition to those potentially cancerous compounds, they also found in 100%, 10 out of 10 of the products, other carcinogenic compounds as well too, like benzene or methylene chloride, okay, or naphthalene, okay? So they found in 100% of the products carcinogenic compounds, 100% of the products VOCs, and then 9 out of the 10 products lead, okay? Now, it's really, really important to understand that quite often you may be thinking to yourself, well, I haven't had any issues. When the real issue is you had issues, but you never connected those issues to the fact that for probably most of your life, because I see like even my little cousins who are like 11 or 12 get braids, and they've been getting braids all their life, okay? So now they're in their 30s, they're in their 40s, and they have been getting braids all their life. I have cousins and family members I don't believe I've ever seen their real hair, okay? So just imagine somebody wearing this hair day by day, year after year, decade after decade for 3 decades, and the amount of toxicity that's going into their bodies. And what people don't understand is that many of the VOCs that I mentioned earlier are linked to skin irritations, okay, respiratory issues, and cancers, okay? So you may think that you're not experiencing any issues, but then you got this skin issue that you went to your doctor and it doesn't go away, but you're still wearing the hair, okay? Some women have gotten their hair braided and instantly broken out. That is exactly what it was. It was these VOC compounds, okay? Some women have noticed that they develop asthma, okay? Some women have noticed that quite possibly they had a newborn, and when they got the newborn, right before they were having the baby, they got a protective style because they thought that this hair was free of any chemicals. Like, nobody's looking for chemicals in hair. And so they get this protective hairstyle, and where do you put your baby? Right here, where your hair is. Okay, and so not only can you develop asthma, but the baby can develop asthma as well from, coming into contact with the hair, which has the chemicals in it, but also the cancers as well too. Okay, so it's just really, really important to understand, based on this consumer report, it's sort of explaining to us not only did it contain these type of compounds, but it contained many chemicals and other ingredients that weren't even on the label as well too. So that's really, really important. Now, the other really big issue is that what most people don't understand is these chemicals that are in the hair, you can't necessarily wash them out, okay? It's not a washout process because the hair is the chemical in and of itself, okay? The synthetic hair is the chemical in and of itself. And so over time, what's happening is just like when you get bottled water, it has an expiration date on it. That expiration date is there not because the water goes bad, it's there because the plastic breaks down. What's the same thing with synthetic hair? As that hair begins to break down, it's the chemicals that are coming out as that hair over time is breaking down. All right, so that's really important. And what speeds up that process is whenever you add heat to it. Okay, so that's if you have extensions and you add heat to it, and when you're trying to press it out and get it flat, or if you have braids and then you burn the ends off just to kind of get those ends to be tight at the end. When you burn those ends, that will cause the chemicals to release as well too. Or when you wash your hair in hot water, that will cause the chemicals to release as well too. This accelerates the release of those chemicals. So that's hugely important. Now, I know a lot of people out there thinking to themselves, well, this is why you get 100% human hair. But guess what? They've done tests, and in many cases, the 100% human hair was actually synthetic hair. Okay? Now, I didn't know anything about the hair industry at all. I didn't know where it was coming from. I didn't know whether it was real or fake. To me, it was just none of my business. But I remember I lived in India for almost 6 months. And when I was living in India, I was in Mumbai. Was I in Bombay? And as I'm on the street, a guy walks up to me and he says, "Are you looking for hair?" in a very thick Indian accent. And I was like, "Hair?" I was like, "No." And he was like, "No, I have human hair." Okay. And he shows it to me and I'm like, "Human hair?" I was like, I have no idea what he's talking about. And he points into a little building and he's showing like a lady with hair on her arm like this. And I will tell you, it's very popular in India for young girls and women to cut their hair, like to literally cut their hair and to sell it. Okay. Now, a lot of people may be thinking at this point, well, if you can get that, then it's better. But here's what me and my sister were talking about, because we were having a spiritual conversation about, things that she was going through in her life. And I was asking her, what is it that many of your girlfriends do and my homegirls do whenever they go through a lot in life? Maybe it's a relationship, maybe they lost a parent, whatever to do. I said, well, what do they typically do in response to going through that? She was like, I don't know, get therapy. I was like, yeah, that's great. I said, what else do they do? She was like, talk to their girlfriends, talk to their blase, people who are close to them. I was like, what else do they do? And she was like, what? And I was like, they usually cut their hair. I said, and why do they cut their hair? Now, again, this is me just learning through conversation. And she was like, they cut their hair because they're trying to get the energy out that maybe came from the situation that they go. I said, bingo. I said, so I want you to think about it. When you get another human's hair, you don't know what energy came from, that hair in that person. You don't know if they were forced to have their hair cut, okay? Which happens in India, okay? Which is a big thing. You should look it up. It happens often in India, and it's sad, okay? Where people will literally walk up behind somebody with long hair in a ponytail and cut it and leave, or force them to cut it, by taking it. So that was another thing that I brought up in the conversation as well, too.